Welcome to another live Q&A. The way this works is every Wednesday, I put a prompt in the private community for you to leave your questions. And then on Thursdays at about 12:30, depending on Emma's naps, I come on and I answer them live. And then you also get access to the replay. So if you can't watch it live, you can just watch on the replay. If you're watching on TikTok, you can leave questions in the comments here, but I am going to answer the questions that were left in the community first. So let's dive right in. First question is from Shannon. And Shannon says, how do I respectfully let my family know that my kids are not a group project and I'm currently not taking criticism on my kids' behavior or my parenting? Oh my God, can I tell you, Shannon, you cracked me up yesterday. Okay. How do I let my family know that my kids are not a group project? Like, I've never heard somebody put it like that before. That was excellent. So here's the thing. There's like this fine line between it takes a community, right? And it takes a village, and we want to learn from people. We want to grow. And then there's that like toxic family that's telling you that basically you're ruining your child, and that because you're not doing it the old school way, it's not going to work, and criticizing the children. You guys share stories all the time in the community about that kind of toxic family stuff. And so first thing I would do if I was you is I would draw a line somewhere. Is there a type of criticism that you're willing to accept? Is there a time and a place where sharing criticism would be acceptable? So sort of like find where your line is there, because you don't want to say, I don't want anybody to tell me anything ever about my parenting, because you might want advice sometimes. And that's just part of like growth. So once you sort of decide like, okay, this is my line. I don't want to be corrected in front of my children. If you have a problem with my parenting, do not interrupt me in the middle of dealing with my child to, state your opinion. If you have an opinion, you can pull me to the side and you can tell me later. You are never to hit my children. You are never to make fun of them. And I talk about this a lot. Like my father-in-law will call my daughter, he used to say like gavoom, and he's from Italy, and that's like an endearing thing. He almost is saying it like in a positive, like you're eating a lot, but I don't like people commenting on how much my kids are eating or calling them names, even if it's, it makes me uncomfortable, right? So figure out where that line is, and then tell those people, hey, father-in-law, I know you're saying it in a joking way, but we don't find it funny to joke about how much food our child is eating. That can lead to issues down the line. Happy to dive into it deeper of why we don't like that, but please choose a different way to speak to her. Hey, mother-in-law or mother or sister, I don't want to be corrected in the middle of handling my child. So if my child is in a tantrum and I'm actively speaking to my child, please do not interrupt me, or please do not start saying your opinion. We can talk about it later. So you're going to set those boundaries. So determine your boundaries, set your boundaries. Then you are going to give options to meet the need, right? The same way we would with our kids. So if your family member is feeling like they want to talk to you about their parenting, you might say to them, this is what you cannot do. This is my boundary. If you want to talk about this, you can ask me if I'm available to go for coffee. You can write it down and hand it to me so that I have time to think about it and process it before we get into an argument. You can, you can hold a family meeting. Figure out like a way to meet the need. So they want to feel heard, they want to feel seen. How can you meet that need? Doesn't mean that you have to change your parenting for them, just means I'm going to give them an opportunity to say their piece, never to justify what I'm doing, but just to be respectful. And then kind of the last piece would be to hold strong to your boundary. If they're not being respectful to the boundary, if they are putting your kids in timeout when you said not to do that, or they continue to call your kids names, or they continue to interrupt your parenting and say, oh, don't listen to mommy, just listen to me, then you need to enforce that boundary. And that usually looks like cutting off contact, no unsupervised contact, short visits, short interactions, removing yourself and your child from the situation when they get out of hand until it sort of resolves itself. So you're going to determine your boundaries, you're going to set your boundaries and make your boundaries known. You're going to leave some room for their needs to be met as well. And so it's a mutually respectful relationship. And then you're going to enforce your boundaries, because at the end of the day, anybody in their minds could give their opinion, but you're not going to change your parenting style unless that's what works for you. Okay, next question is from Arabelle. I hope I said your name right. Hi, my feeling was hurt and I don't know how to handle it. I overheard my son asking his friend, who does she love more, mom or dad? And she said dad. And then he responded, yeah, I love my dad more too. I kind of want to ask him about it, or maybe I need to connect with him more. So this is like such a funny thing, right? And it doesn't feel funny. It feels like horrible. And we laugh in my house because my older one was always like mama's girl. My husband wanted a little girl so he could have a daddy's girl, and she was always like mom, mom, mom. But then my younger one, even when she was a tiny baby, she always preferred my husband. Like she would find comfort in him. So it's just so funny. And then I was so offended. I'm like, I gave birth to you. But the kids are allowed to have these feelings, right? They're allowed to, in that moment, feel like they were more connected to dad. Maybe he felt more connected to dad. Maybe he said that he loves dad more because the friend said he loves dad more. I would not reprimand the child for stating their feelings. You want them to be able to honestly express. You don't want them to just say, I love mom more just to make you feel better, right? You want their true feelings. And honestly, imagine being dad if the child's saying, I love dad more. The way that we sort of talk about love and giving love and receiving love in our house is, it started to come up when the little one was born, because my daughter's like, well, how are you going to love both of us? And do you love both of us, and all this kind of stuff. And so we always say, there's so much love in your heart that it's endless. The love in your heart is endless. You can love mommy the same, and daddy the same, and baby Emma the same, and all these things. So that's how we sort of talk about love, period, in our house. But to your sort of question of, in this scenario where child says, I love dad more, how can I sort of address that with my child? I don't know that I would. I don't know that I would go to the child and I would say, hey, I heard you talking to your friend and you said that you love dad more, and then reprimand them for that. The only way I would address it is if I said, hey, I heard you talking to your friend and you said that you love dad more. Do you want to talk about this? If the child says yes, then you might share something like, what makes you feel like you love dad more? Let the child share. Maybe dad just took them for ice cream the other day, or whatever the case is. Do you know what love means? What do you think love means? What do you think love feels like? Do you know, in my heart, I have so much love that I can love you, and I can love daddy, and I can love this one. And that's only if you want to have that conversation. I don't think it's necessary. I think it's more of an ego thing and more of a, your feelings hurt in that moment. And so really, you might want to just take a breath and say, okay, the kid obviously loves me, right? I'm in his life, and I don't need him to prove that by playing this sort of like tit for tat game. So we're done with questions in the community. If anybody else has questions, you can put them in the chat on Zoom. You can put them in the chat on TikTok. I'll hang out a couple of minutes. We can do a couple questions that way. Otherwise, this was so quick. 8 minutes. This is like a world record. Somebody was asking a really good question yesterday. I wonder if I can pull up TikTok here and see what's in my comments, because somebody was asking a really great question in my comments yesterday, and I told them to join the community and ask, but I don't think that they did. The community is the best way to reach me. I answer every single post in there. Let me see. Oh, I can pull it up on the computer. If I don't get any questions in here, I am going to pop off. So if you have a question, make sure you ask. Where is this? I know what it was. So this person, well, let me answer these questions first. Oh, Rachel Ruth says, love the community. Awesome, Rachel. Rachel, if you watch my weekly Q&A from the community, then you could put your camera on. I could see you. Okay. Is it wrong for a child to only want to spend time with just mom? So I think that goes back to kind of what I was talking to Arabelle about. It's like, I don't think it's wrong. I think children have different connections, and those connections can be based on a couple of things. And here's the honest truth, right? Like how that person treats them, sort of like the bond and the connection that they have. So if the child mostly wants to spend time with mom, doesn't necessarily mean that dad is doing something wrong, but it is possible that mom is making the child feel like they can be their true self. Mom is making the child feel like they can express their feelings and feel secure, right? It's just, we went through this a couple of days ago because Zoe had like a complete breakdown. I think I made a TikTok about it because we were racing to do pajamas, her and her sister. She lost. She had a complete tantrum, like screaming, crying. She wanted me to pretend that she was the winner, which I will not do. I'm not going to create a fake reality for her just, to make her feel better. We don't do things that way in our house. And even though she was so mad and upset with me, she didn't want to go to her dad. She didn't want dad to see her crying. She doesn't like if he sees her cry. And so I don't think that it's necessarily that like my husband did something wrong. I think it's just that because I'm with her so much, she feels these secure connections. What dad could do, and what we wound up talking about, is dad can start working on that connection. Dad could start, telling her things like, it's okay if you cry. I love you just as much as if you cry. When we have hard days, daddy loves you just as much. And he can start saying those things to her to build that up. But I don't think that there's something wrong with it. If you're getting like red flag indicators that there's something wrong going on, regardless of who, which I just learned on TikTok that that's not actually a word, but regardless of who it is, if like red flags are going up, then maybe dig deeper. But if it's just a regular, like, I feel a little bit more secure with mom, I don't think that that's a bad thing. Do you feel like it's too late to start gentle parenting on a 7-year-old who tends to have a bad attitude at times? No, absolutely not. So gentle, holistic parenting, it's really just about being respectful to your child. So yes, your child is already 7 years old. There's probably some disconnect in your relationship. The child is probably, giving attitude, throwing tantrums. There's not a lot of respect both ways, right? So just, we don't want to look at it and say there's something wrong with the child. We want to say like, there's something wrong with the dynamic in this household and we need to make a change. We're willing to make a change. So, but if you think about it, the child is 7, right? It's not even halfway through their lifespan of actually being with you, right? Like assuming that they move out when they're 18, which we all know is probably not likely to happen, right? So yes, start at 7 years old, start at 14 years old, start at freaking 20 years old. It doesn't matter. Once you get it in your mind to say, you know what, I can have a more respectful relationship with my child, then yes, start it. What I would do with a child who is 7 years old and you're sort of having what feels like attitude problems, is I would have like a family meeting. I would first determine what your boundaries are, determine what your rules are. Your like top level, like in my house, we do not lie and we do not hurt other people with our words or with our hands. Decide like what your core rules are, okay? Then start letting go control of everything else, okay? And then have a family meeting and say, hey, listen, I've been noticing this. I've been noticing that we're giving each other attitude. I don't let you say your opinion all the time. I've been a little bit controlling about these things. You're not handling your frustration in probably a healthy way. Here's how I think we could fix it. And don't make it like you, just make it like, this is what I'm noticing. in the household. These are the stresses that I'm noticing in the household. And this is how I think we can start solving these problems. And then focus on connection, focus on letting go of control. Because so many times as the parent, we think that we need to control everything just because we're in charge. But we are guides to these children. Like, we are not meant to control another human, like everything that they do, everything that they eat, all the words that they say, the way that they feel emotions. The video that I just did yesterday about the kid that was screaming for the cookie, somebody wrote on there, like, my kid's allowed to have their feelings, but not for something so small. But who determines what's small? You can't. I cried the other day over a shoe. I cried over a shoe because it was too small to fit my kid's foot. Somebody else could have walked by and been like, that's not important to cry about, shut up and move on with your day. How is that? If you wouldn't do it to me, why would you do it to a child? I don't understand. So, validate them, connect with them, your relationship will change. Rachel, yeah, and you don't have to put your camera on, only if you want to. How do you deal with someone who watches your child but doesn't understand gentle parenting? So here's the thing, and I had to let go a little bit. Nobody is ever going to care for or interact with your child the same way that you will. Okay, they're not going to feed them the same. They're not going to have the same energy. They're not going to always keep the same rules. One thing that used to drive me crazy is, like, if we had like markers, my mother-in-law would like let the kids like draw on the container of the markers, and I'm like, no, markers go on the paper only. And it's like, all those little things, those little unimportant things, let go of, because we need to keep space to hold firm boundaries of the important stuff. So what is your really firm differences in opinion? Like non-negotiables, my parents have this different way of parenting. I can let go of all the silly things like juice at 9 a.m. and too many marshmallows and coloring on things that aren't paper. I can let go of all of that, but I cannot let go of name calling. I cannot let go of timeouts. I cannot let go of hitting my child, right? And then go to your parents with these non-negotiables. Listen, I'm going to release some control. I understand that you're not going to care for my child the same way that I would. I got you. But I cannot leave my child with somebody who is going to blank. It's a non-negotiable. Do you think that we can come up with a plan to avoid this? And if the answer is no, then the hard truth is that you gotta find a different care. And I know that's really hard, especially when cost is a factor and things like that. But if the person is unwilling to respect your boundaries, you have to keep in the back of your mind that they're with that person so much that that person's going to start to become their inner voice. That person's going to start to influence the way that they act in your home, the way that they act, like, period, as a person. So it's really important that those key items, those non-negotiables, you're on the same page with anybody who is caring for your child. Oh, hey, the Green family. I'm so sorry I forgot your name, but hello, friend. Oh, I lost it. My almost 3-year-old has started hitting himself in the face when he gets in trouble. What do I do? Oh, that's so sad. Okay. I'll first look at, like, what is he getting in trouble for? Like, are the things that he's getting in trouble for him trying to express a need and that need not being met? And so he is like literally just trying to like get it out. Like, I'm trying to communicate this and you're not understanding. And this is so frustrating. Like, you know what I mean? So I'd first say, like, what is he getting punished about? Can we remove that punishment? Can we remove that control? Can we use more of a natural consequence? Can we use it as a teaching moment instead? And then as a secondary, I would give him tools like, when you're so angry, you can hit this. you can stomp on this floor, you can throw this thing, and let them get that, get it out. And watch how you talk to your kids too, right? So like a 3-year-old understands, kids understand so much more than you think that they understand. Um, and so if we're always requiring perfection of our kids, right? We're always only praising them when they do really, really great, never praising the effort. Um, they will start to get really hard on themselves if they make a mistake, because they only get, this really positive affection when they're perfect. But when they slip up, when they make mistakes, when they do the wrong things, when they make a bad decisions are different than mistakes. Then they're reprimanded, and so they will start to get really, really, really hard on themselves. So I would also just always look at, like, how are you treating them when they fail? What do you say to them when they make a mistake? If they spill the water, do they get in trouble, or do you say mistakes happen? It's okay, right? I use emotion books and fidget toys. Any suggestions? Oh, it's so funny because, we homeschool. And I always say, like, if my daughter had to go to public school, she would be in so much trouble, because she's always like, she needs something in her hand, she needs to fidget, she needs to stand, she needs to, like, but she listens. She learns that way. So I love the idea of like fidget toys and things like that. Do I have any specific suggestions? Not really. Emotion books, I should do a video on this. We have so many emotion books. Wait, let me see if I have any of them over here. Oh, I do. Hold on, don't leave. I did find some. Oh my God, I have so many good ones here. Hold on. Okay. The other one is upstairs. There's one, it's called Elmo is Mindful, and it actually teaches the kids some calming techniques. And that's good too. Like if you're a parent and you're not sure what to use as calming techniques, it's called Elmo is Mindful, and it's like a hardcover book. And it talks about like breathing, belly breathing, kind of like using something visual. I think he makes like a jar with glitter or something. But I have this book, The What If Monster, and this is really like personal growth, and teaches them kind of like about the inner thoughts, and sort of like puts a personality to these like bad inner thoughts, or negative inner thoughts, and calls it like the what if monster, and sort of teaches them how to overcome that. The Way I Feel, this was one of the first emotion books that we got, and it literally just walks through each emotion, and like, so this is happy, sad, all these, each emotion, kind of what it feels like. So that's good with like naming emotions. And then, I love affirmations. So this book actually was gifted to me, or gifted to Zoe, I should say, and it's called My Magical Words. So we have sort of like this, here's like my negative words, negative self-talk. I know on TikTok it's hard to say. And then here's what we can replace it with. These are my magical words. So yeah, I love emotion books. I love talking to kids about personal growth. We also have a book. We're not going through it as quickly as I thought we would, but it's called Personal Growth for Kids, Growth Mindset for Kids. Yeah. But it's a little bit advanced, so you have to like slow the topics down a little bit. For me anyway, my daughter's 5. Okay. I have an almost 3-year-old that will constantly hit her 1-year-old, I'm assuming brother or sister. What can I do? I find myself getting very frustrated. So when my little one was born, my older one that had like would never hurt anybody, okay, used to hit her, bite her, and she was sneaky about it. She was so sneaky. I was like, I never knew I could be so pissed off at my own kid. Like, just get away from me, right? Because you're hurting my baby. And I was so frustrated. And what we wound up doing is basically saying to the older one, who was about 3.5 at the time, your little sister cannot defend herself and she needs to be kept safe. She needs to be near me and she needs to be kept safe. If I cannot trust you near her, then you're going to have to stay in a different room than us. So if mommy and Emma are in the bedroom cleaning up or whatever we're doing, getting ready for the day, you cannot be in here. You can go in your room, you can go downstairs, you can watch TV, play with toys, I don't care, but you cannot be with us because I have to keep your sister safe. And it really was only like 2 days of enforcing that and being like, I'm sorry, you can't be in here. You know, I have to keep your sister safe. When I feel like your sister's safe with you, then you can be with her. It was like 1 or 2 days and she got her act together. I use fidget toys and do those things in classes. That's awesome. When we were talking about before, the 3-year-old like hitting himself in the head, she's saying he gets so angry when he can't do something on his own, like tying his shoes. 3 years old tying shoes. I gotta be honest, I haven't even taught Zoe how to tie her shoes. Um, we should probably work on that. So he can't tie his own shoes. When he first started, that was when he first started hitting himself. Now he does it when he gets in trouble. I would just make sure that you're working on like some things that we do is we will say like right after a stressful incident, right? Well, right after she gets in, not really gets in trouble, but like we talk about something that went wrong, you know, hey, this was not cool, how this was handled, whatever. We wind up saying to her, hey, you know, like even if you make a mistake or even if you didn't handle something great or you know even when you spill something, even when you do this, whatever is relevant to the situation, mommy and daddy still love you the same as when you do something really great. And that always helps her. And then just watching like sort of your reaction when he does things like, you know, let him know that you're proud of him for trying to tie his shoe, not that you're proud of him for the outcome of the shoe being tied. um, okay, when the child seems to need a moment, do you send them to a cool down spot? So no, I feel like calm down corners, cool down spots are all like fancy words for timeout. Um, Timeout, or you know, basically removing the child from the situation, um, is when the child is forced to go to a specific area. So by calling it a calm down area or cool down area and putting tools there like books and paper and stuff like that to help the child calm down, if you are still forcing the child to go there, it is still a timeout. When we send children to timeout, we're basically saying, I don't want to deal with your big emotions right now. You need to go deal with them on your own. Figure out how to calm down, figure out how to think to yourself what you should have done better. And kids are not typically able to do this. And so it's frustrating for them. And usually when they get sent to that cool down corner or whatever it is, they're not thinking, wow, I should have handled this way. This is how I can properly express this emotion. This is how I can properly express this need. They're not thinking that. They're thinking, how do I not get caught next time? How do I not express this big emotion next time? How do I hold it in so that mom doesn't, you know, get frustrated and send me to my corner? That's what they're thinking. So instead, I would suggest having the moment with them. Hey, do you want to, you can have the cool down corner. Okay, you can still have it, set it up, but you would ask, do you want to go over to the calm down corner and choose an activity? Do you want to take a breath together? Do you want to sit down and read a book for a minute because it feels like you might need a break? Do you want to go stand outside with me and scream? Do you want to hit this pillow? Offer options to help them process that feeling. And then once they are able to process their feeling, then you might say, hey, listen, next time when you have these big feelings, this is how you can express it. Or next time you really want that juice box, you don't have to throw everything around in the kitchen and put yourself on the floor. All you have to do is say, Mom, can I please have the juice box? Or, you know, whatever is age appropriate. Bree Baby is saying not necessarily in a corner, but everyone take a breather. You're so helpful. Trying to unlearn everything from my childhood is hard. I know it is so hard. And just so you know, I'm on the journey too. Like my journey started a couple of years ago, but I'm still on the journey. But yeah, I mean, saying everybody take a breath, and what we do, and it's funny because even it was uncomfortable for my husband at first because he's not usually used to like processing in that way. But it will be like, come on, let's all take a breath together, you know? And it does feel a little silly at first, but it's really helpful. It's really helpful. And a lot of people ask, I know nobody's asking right now, but a lot of people ask when I suggest start teaching them deep breaths. We started with my youngest when she was like 6 months. So with Zoe, I didn't start any of this sort of more holistic approach until she was probably like 2.5. Before that, you know, I had hit her, I had yelled at her, I had, you know, put her in timeout. Like I had used all the techniques that were used on me. But with Emma, I knew better, so I did better. And we started like at 6 months old, like take a breath. And it was just a fun thing. You don't teach them in the middle of a tantrum. You just do it as a fun thing. You're playing. Want to take a breath with mommy? And then usually I would like blow in their face the first couple of times and then they'll laugh, you know? And by the time she was like 12 months old, she would get so mad and you would see her, Emma's a hitter, like she, not necessarily people all the time. We've gotten past mostly that point, but she'll hit things. Like she'll be like, if she can't get the cap open, she'll be like, oh, and she'll like hit it. And then you'll see her go, and like this, she started doing that on her own when she was like 12 or 13 months. So they can learn, kids can learn. And another thing too, if you have small kids, I know Nettie, yours is around 6 months, right?
He'll be 7 months tomorrow.
Oh, awesome. And remind me, he started crawling, right?
Yes.
Awesome. So with the little ones, it's like we can practice our own habits. Like we can practice talking to them, explaining things to them, even though they might not completely understand it, right? So at 7 months old, when he's crawling and he falls, you could say to him, you know, oh, that's so frustrating when you fall, but I'm so proud of you for trying, you know. And it's not really for him, although he will understand the tone and he'll start to understand, you know, your expressions in this, but it's more for you. So now in 6 months from now, when he's, you know, pulling snacks from the cabinet, oh, I'm so proud of you for being so independent and getting your own snack, but we're going to stay out of this cabinet right now, or whatever, you know, whatever that looks like as they get older. But you get in the habit of praising them for effort. You get in the habit of complimenting their effort. You get in the habit of speaking respectfully to them, to calling out maybe undesired behavior in a more respectful way. But it's much more helpful if you start when they're little. Okay. I think that's all the questions. Did you have one more, Nettie?
No. We just he's even starting to pull up. So he's just hitting milestone after milestone very quickly.
Oh, that's awesome. Congratulations. Are you doing anything specific with him, like working with him on these skills, or he's just kind of doing it?
He's choosing these skills and then I'm just helping him with that skill.
That's awesome. Great job, mama. That's amazing. It's like when they start crawling and being mobile that young, like 6, 7 months, it's like part of you is like, yay, this is so exciting. And then you're like, oh my gosh, wait, what can they get into? Like I have to watch them.
It's like now I'm trying to figure out, like, do I need to baby proof my kitchen because he's going towards the kitchen, or just buy a gate that I can keep him in the living room.
So I'll tell you what we did, and this doesn't work for everybody. Hold on, my little one. Okay, I'm gonna come back to TikTok in a minute. I like to have like decor in my house. Like I have like decorative things on the fireplace, and I have like little knickknacks that are all over the place. And so I like to have my Christmas tree and not have to put the balls only on the top half of it, right? So, and again, this doesn't work for everybody. So I always chose to not completely baby proof. Anything that was like really unsafe, of course, I would like remove or, you know, baby proof. But for the most part, like in the kitchen, we only have locked like the cabinets that have the chemicals or like the blades from the blender and stuff in it. And then that way the child can learn, you know, instead of just being blocked, like they never experience the kitchen and how to interact in the kitchen because
Like
it's
I
locked.
am letting him like go towards the kitchen. It's just like watching him to make sure like things that are not appropriate.
Yeah. And like
Everything.
if you have to like
Like,
pee or
so
something,
care.
you have somewhere safe to put them. Yeah. One time when Emma was like, she curled early too. So she had to be like 9 or 10 months old. This is really gross. So if you don't like gross stuff, cover your ears for 1 second. Okay. Zoe was going to the potty. Okay. Now Emma usually stayed in the living room. So I had no problem with it. So Zoe calls me because she needed help wiping herself in the potty. So I go in the bathroom to wipe her. I come out, Emma's missing. Okay. So I'm screaming, I'm running all over the house. This child got into my laundry room where my dog's potty pad is and legit like ate poop. Ate poop. I felt like the worst mom in the whole world. I don't think I've ever screamed like this. My husband thought like I found her like not alive, like the way I screamed, it was like mortifying. We had to like call poison control, like everything. So after that I started, I put the pack and play in the living room, and if I had to like take my eyes off her, I would just stick her in there because I'm like, oh my god, this is mortifying.
Um, with our house we bought, we had two walk-in closets in the master bedroom. And so one of the walk-in closets, that is where we put like the vacuum cleaners and all the chemicals. And we plan to put like a lock on it to where only can be opened with a key.
That's a good idea. I like that idea. All right, cool. So let me see. I'll take a couple more questions here. What is it? I'll probably stay on until about 1:15, and then I'm gonna go eat lunch before Emma wakes up. Okay, my little is 11 months. If she gets into anything, what would I say to her instead of hitting? So I would teach her how to interact with the object. So if she gets into the pots and pans, you might show her, you know, how they're supposed to be stacked or where they are. If she gets into the paints, you might want to either teach her how to use the paints or um, tell her, oh, we're not going to touch this right now, but you can look at it. When my daughter, you know, first started moving around, and I told you I have like all the decorative stuff on my fireplace, or Christmas time, the Christmas tree was out. We're not going to yell at her for going near the Christmas tree. The curiosity, we don't want to train that curiosity out of them. So when they're curious about it, we're going to teach them how to interact with it. We always use the word wow. So dog bowls, Christmas trees, decorations on the thing. I'd say you can't touch it, but look, stand back here and you can say wow. And then so she would like run up to the tree, and then she would look at it and she'd be like, wow. So we're not saying don't do this, you can't do this, you're in trouble for doing this and squashing the curiosity. We're saying, let me teach you how to interact with this object. And then you can also like do a distraction. Somebody commented recently about the child getting into the dog bowl. And the way that I had handled it just when my little ones did it is I would do that. I'd be like, you can't do that. You can say, wow, if you want to play with water, we can get some water over here. And then we got them like a bowl of water. My partner thinks gentle parenting has me spoiling my children and that I'm making them weak. Any suggestions? Oh, hold on, there's more. Oh, wait, hold on. I'm reading two different comments. Sometimes I get mixed up here. My partner thinks that gentle parenting has me spoiling my children and that I am making them weak. When he is home, it's very upsetting because he always does the opposite of what I normally do during the time that he isn't home. What would you recommend? Okay. So each child will have a unique relationship with each grown up in their life. I would set some basic ground rules. For instance, I would not be okay with my partner hitting my children. Okay. I would not be okay with my husband making fun of or like bashing my children. Okay. Those would be like my non-negotiables because I consider those things abuse and I wouldn't allow my children to stay in abuse. Outside of that, you have to let your spouse parent because they are a full other human being and those are their children. So, a couple things that you can do, and my husband wasn't 100% on board when I started this journey either. You can have honest conversations. So, you would start a conversation when things are calm, um, sit down, have a glass of wine, have a cup of tea, whatever works for you. Hey, listen, I've been noticing this is really stressful in our life. Pick one thing. Okay. I've been noticing that we've been really hard on so and so, and I don't think that he's reacting well. And I've been doing some research and I feel like this might work. Okay. Don't make it a pointing game. Don't say I do it better already. Just say this is the problem that we collectively have as a family, and this is one proposed solution. What do you think of doing it that way? And if they shoot it down, you can say, well, what do you think? Because this is not working for us. So what do you think we can do? Um, and hear them out and come up with a plan. You can also model the behavior. So just because your husband is around doesn't mean you should start treating the children any differently. You're still going to treat them with respect. You're still going to handle the situations as you see it should be handled. You might say to your husband, listen, if I'm handling something, please don't interrupt. And if you're handling something, I will not interrupt you. Your husband might start to see that the children gravitate towards you, that the children show you more respect, that you don't have as many issues with the children as he's having, because the kids are going to have a completely different relationship with you than him. They're going to come to you when they're upset because they can express their emotions. They're going to respect you because you respect them. They're going to listen to you because they know that if mom is really telling me I need to do something, it's because it's important because she usually gives me control, right? And then your husband is probably going to feel a lot more resistance than that because they're not allowed to express themselves. They're not feeling mutual respect. And so when he starts to see that dynamic, he might just start naturally doing some things this way. If you follow High Impact Club, if you don't follow her, you should go follow her. So High Impact Club, she just did like a whole mini course on like getting your spouse on board, and she did like a bunch of videos when she was launching the course, so maybe a week or two ago. So just like scroll her page and she has a lot of great like examples and resources. But I think like if you connect and are respectful with your spouse and say, hey, listen, we're disagreeing here, but this is not working, what can we do? And then also you're modeling that behavior, the dynamic could start to change. But always be consistent for your kids. Like always don't change your behavior because he's now in the room and acting a certain way. You need to be that stable person for them. All right, y'all. I'm gonna go have some lunch. Enjoy this gloomy day. It's a gloomy day out here in North Carolina, but I'll be honest, like I'm happy to get a break from the heat. So we'll actually go stand outside and ride bikes and I won't be like dying. So thank you. Thanks, Nettie, for joining and for sharing those insights and stories. I appreciate it. And thank you to everybody on TikTok. Make sure you join the community. For some reason, it's not letting you join book club right now. I'm working on getting it fixed, but book club is on Sundays. And we're doing this book, How to Do the Work. And I'm not even through chapter 1, and I have had major shifts. I've become aware of certain things that I'm doing as trauma responses. I've kind of released a lot of emotions because I'm ready for the healing. I'm ready for reparenting myself. I'm ready to figure out what it means to find your inner child. So if you want to be part of that, we're only on the second session, so you're not too far behind, and you don't have to read the book to be part of the book club. But I will talk to you in the group. See ya.